All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. I know we've got a few more people who'll be kind of coming into the session as we go along. I know we've just started, but really glad to have you. This is the first afternoon of our volunteer engagement leadership convening, and we had some great sessions this morning, and we'll continue over the next several days to have a number of different opportunities for people to just learn, have some continuing education, and connect with one another. I did want to give you just a couple of housekeeping things. I'm Jovita Woodrich, Volunteer Services Director for Volunteer Florida. Didn't mention that. But on the homepage for the convening that you all have your links to, you'll see the Media Hub at the top right. And there will be tons of resources as well as any slides from presentations or handouts. So please keep checking back there for information and reference material. Under the networking section, we would love for you to make sure you complete your virtual badge and then search for, you'll see filters on the kind of the right next to the virtual badges. Feel free to search for people who live in your county. Reach out to them, connect with them. We want you all to get to know one another as well. So just a little side note there. So glad to have you for the Power and Benefits of Youth Service. And I am thrilled to have Dina Wright with me today. We have known each other for about a year or so, and I am just blown away by the kind of work she does, and then by the youth and all of the stories I hear about how they are impacting their world, their passion and their effectiveness in doing that. So we're going to have a conversation today, just try to have a little bit of dialogue about youth and service, and hopefully give you some ideas, some inspiration, some encouragement to be sure that we're really looking at all ages as people who can contribute as citizens of our great state. So, Dina, I'm going to do a little bit of your bio and then really want you to tell us about yourself. So Dina is the executive director of the Mason G. Smoke Foundation. She became that director in June 2021, so it's a fairly new position. And she earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Education and Communications from UF and became the first executive director of Florida Ag in the Classroom in Gainesville. After moving back to Highlands County, she was a college success coach for Take Stock in Children and later a teacher and college and career coach at Sebring High School. Her passion is empowering youth leaders with the skills and opportunities needed to make a positive impact on their community for generations to come. And I love that. I love your history, your familiarity with youth over the course of multiple years. So Dina, I'm going to turn it over to you to just share more about yourself and also about the foundation and that connection. So whatever you'd like to tell us about, and then we'll get into some questions.
Thank you. So the Mason G. Smoke Foundation is a nonprofit. We're based in Lake Placid, Florida, but we actually cover kind of the whole heartland. We have three major programs. We have Youth Leadership Highlands, which is our flagship program, and that's based all over Highlands County. So we have 3 high schools in Highlands County, and we draw students from all 3 high schools for the Youth Leadership program. We also do a scholarship program to graduating seniors. That's part of our Heartland initiative because we actually provide 5 scholarships, and that's to all 3 high schools in Highlands County, but we also provide one to Hardee and DeSoto counties as well. They each have a high school. And then finally is our community grants program. And we accept applications from other nonprofit organizations throughout the state or throughout the Heartland, and we actually award community grants. That's actually due tomorrow, so that's on my to-do list right now. So we've been really excited to get some really good applications where we can give back to some of the other nonprofits in the Heartland area. So that's that same scholarship area, Hardee, DeSoto, and Highlands areas. My flagship program and my passion is the youth leadership. We serve 10th graders. So we bring in 10th grade students. We select them through a blind application process. at the end of their 9th grade year. Students in all schools and homeschools, private schools in Highlands County are welcome to apply. And they answer a series of questions. They tell us about their desire to be a leader, to learn more about their community and about service. And then we actually take the entire bio page of the application off and submit it to an independent committee that reviews just their answers. And so because we do live in a small community, we really want the students to be selected on the answers that they give us and their desire to become part of the youth leadership program.
Sure.
And it is phenomenal how that process works. So we have this year, we have 25 10th graders that are in our class 12. It's our 12th year of that. We also when I started in 2021, my heart was to kind of develop this a little deeper. And so our juniors and seniors that have gone through the 10th grade program have the opportunity to be ambassadors. And so they are continuing to develop their leadership skills. And then they do a lot more with service programs through our organization. They're actually helping a group of adults. We're starting the planning for our next career and community service fair. And they are instrumental in helping plan that. They go out to the local chambers of commerce. They go to their schools and talk at staff meetings and promote that. And they work with different businesses within our community. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do in our organization.
Wow, that's a large nutshell, so to speak. Plenty of things. And if you wouldn't mind sharing just real quickly who Mason G. Smoke was, just the context for even having a really great organization like this one in your area.
Thank you. So Mason was a classmate of mine. I actually graduated from high school with him. I knew his wife, Tracy, and Mason very well when we were in school. And he was a local businessman. He was in citrus. He was just one of those dynamic people that influenced his community. He was always looking for a way to make someone, to lift someone up, to help his community in a way that they knew that there was somebody in their corner. He was the hands and feet of Jesus. And so he was tragically killed about 15 years ago now. And the friends and family of Mason they couldn't let his good works and his legacy of what he was doing end because he wasn't physically here anymore. And so they developed the foundation. And he was one of those people that just had character. He was a character. And we laugh. We say, sometimes when somebody's gone, we all think that they were totally perfect. And,
right.
And we really strive to let the kids know that he wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
He was human, but he was impactful. And so we model our programs after. You don't have to be perfect, but if you are striving to do good and to make an impact in the world around you, you can influence so many lives. So we have over 200 kids that have gone through the youth leadership program. We've given out, almost, I think it's about 150 scholarships and the grants. And so in the past 15 years, his legacy has continued, even though he's not here to continue personally doing those good things.
Thank you for that. And it is an inspiring story. I love that component that he was human, because I think too, I remember this, in high school, middle and high school, so much of my sense, there were a number of layers, but a lot of the pressure when it came to service had to do with scholarships and community service, and fed into this kind of perfection and performance, piece versus, kind of what's your motivation. You are not going to be perfect. You're not going to get in everywhere, but this in and of itself is valuable, and not just, you've got to write the paragraph so that you can get the scholarship kind of a thing, which I know helps to cultivate it as something you want to do longer term versus a checkbox So, I'm really thankful that you said that part. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. And I didn't realize that he had been a classmate of yours. I just think it's amazing the personal connection that you have and the way that you're able to carry on his legacy. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And that just really tremendous, connection that you have to him and the work that you all are doing. So, so first of all, when you think about the motivations of students, or at least the benefits, we'll start there, of youth serving. Not versus, but kind of on the continuum of age. When you look at young people serving, what do you see that's particularly unique about their what they have to offer?
Well, they have an energy. Students, high schoolers especially, they just have this energy and this enthusiasm. They bring a fresh set of eyes and a fresh perspective to things. They're very technologically savvy. I can't even really say that word some days. And so they bring that perspective of the youth to everything that they do. They have a way of looking at things. They have a way of interacting with people that kind of lends itself to bringing us into a different way of looking at things. Sure. And they have a real heart for service. They want to connect. They have a desire to connect. And when you involve them in things, they just really thrive and shine.
Well, thank you. A way of interacting. I like that. It is unique and can be very disarming for a lot of people. Kind of peels back some layers in certain ways, I bet. But that energy, like you said, and people remembering that energy is not hyperactivity. It is towards something. Like what you're saying, and that can be really harnessed and that can be mutually beneficial, I think is really key there. And then of course the tech savviness is massive. I have had a number of organizations that have said, we really need a website update, or we need, do you have contacts to people in, marketing or public relations? Or they say, how about a 12th grader who knows how to put together a WordPress site and could do that as a one-time project, and that kind of thing that people don't think about, but they have an energy, tech savviness,
yes.
that
and their communication, they can get a message out the way that we use social media versus the way that they use social media.
Sure.
If you want a message to get out, and they influence each other.
Yes.
And so if you have your volunteer base of, if everybody in your volunteer base is over the age of 40, you're going to have a hard time communicating your messages and involving those young people. And so if you can have your youth actually take on those projects of communicating the messages out to the other youth, they listen to each other.
That's great influence. And with some of that too, you can give them the words to say. It doesn't mean that you're just saying, write whatever you want. People might have that kind of concern. Give them the information, but they know how to use those channels and the frequency and, all of that. Some of it is really innate to them.
Right.
So that's really great. Do you have any, I'd love to hear just some examples of youth and what they have done, how they've supported organizations. I think it would be great for people to hear some specifics about the kinds of things that they're doing and what kinds of organizations they're doing those things with.
So a few of the things, We have an organization here locally that is a feeding program in Lake Placid called Manna Ministries. I've had a couple of students that they volunteer with that. So they go in and they help unload trucks. They help stock the shelves. They help all of those behind the scenes things and keep things organized and coordinated. And beyond that, we actually have a Heartland Food Bank, which is it encompasses more than just one. I mean, he's kind of the distributor to all of the food outreach places in our area. And we take our Youth Leadership Highland students there and they tour his facility. And it was really neat to me when we toured last year. One of my former students from the high school when I taught, he explained to us that he had a high school student that came in, was just kind of checking off the box of, I need to do some volunteer hours, found that he really had a knack for organizing. And this senior came in and had been volunteering with him for a couple of years at that point. And he said he really works it almost like a job, but it's a volunteer. He said he's here 15 hours a week.
Wow.
He totally restructured the way that they organized all of their food systems. And so the teenager was the person that said, it doesn't really make sense that we have this sitting by this and this sitting by this. What if we did all of these things? And so he created the structure, and then he continued to come in and help with training the adult volunteers and making sure that everything was set up there. We do a social services day. Part of what we do with our Youth Leadership Highlands is they tour our community to learn about different aspects of the community. And one of the days right in December we do, so that it's kind of timely that's a time of the year that we need a little extra support in a lot of areas. We do Social Services Day, and we take them to Heartland Horses. And Heartland Horses serves developmentally challenged people that need they use horses as rehabilitation.
Sure.
And so when we did our tour, a few months later, I found out that 2 or 3 of my students that toured in December signed up to be volunteers. And now they, every week, go to Heartland Horses. And they help with taking care of the horses. They help with the clients that Heartland Horses serves. So our students are involved in a lot of diverse type of activities. They get very involved at their schools. They organize clubs. They do social outreach programs. And so they're involved in so many different aspects of our community. It's not just one little sector.
Got it. Great examples. They're getting exposure and ownership of tasks and of projects, and then the organizations are benefiting tremendously as well. So feel free to continue to share that. I do any of those examples you have as we keep going. I do want to touch base with the people who are attending. We would love to hear what organization you're with, what kind of focus area you're in. Some of you might be kind of in the human services. Some of you may be in a variety of other kind of areas. So we would love in the chat for you to just share kind of the kind of work that you do and or the name of the organization that you're with, so we can kind of address some of those trends if we have any when it comes to attendees. Sometimes, there's a little delay when it comes to the chat, so we'll wait just a second there. But again, where you're from, or Collier County Museums. Fabulous. Welcome, Karen. Hi, Karen. I know you. Who else is here? I see Kathy Worthman. Hello, Kathy. See Colleen. That's with the Red Cross. Chris. Pasco Animal Services, Red Cross. Hi, Colleen. Hi, Riley. Okay. CERT, Girl Scouts, wonderful. AmeriCorps, North Carolina. Is that what that said? Great. Animal Rescue. Key West, Florida Keys, Fish and Wildlife. Okay, we've got a great swath of folks here. A couple of Humane Society folks too. This is great. Well, I'm so glad that you all are here and yeah, participating with us. We'll have another chance to hear from you all a little bit as well in terms of how youth may be incorporated into the work that you all are doing as well. And I'm glad you all can kind of see who's on the call as well. Hopefully, some of you may very well be colleagues, or at least you're in the same kind of focus area. So definitely look through this list and see if there's anybody that you may want to connect with in your area or otherwise, because you all are doing some of the, doing some of the same kinds of work. So Dina, just kind of to stay in the area where we are, when youth come in to, for example, youth leadership, Highlands, how do you frame service to them? Are they taking a class on it? Is it just sort of a, they show up and you start doing it? Because I think, and with this, I know those of you on the call, it's not necessarily that you are conducting a program for youth, but you can certainly pull how to frame to youth the importance of service, how to encourage them as they do support your organization through service. So anything that you can share, Dina, about how you frame this for them would be, really great.
So being a nonprofit, we first start off with framing it. What is a nonprofit? What are we doing? What's our purpose of having nonprofits? And then we take them, as I said, to a variety of nonprofits in our area so that they get to see the impact that those nonprofits are having in our community. And then what we kind of do is we kind of start the clearinghouse process of it. I get tons of requests from organizations. Hey, I need some kids to help here. I need some kids to help there. So we have a place on our website that we actually showcase all of the organizations that have contacted me. We actually did a reach out in 2021, and we continue to do that, of talking to organizations and saying, do you need volunteers? And if you do, give us just a little bit of what you need, what type of services they would be doing for you. And then we have a page on our website, and we work with all the local high schools I keep that updated. And we don't post specific events on there. We post organizations and the contact information.
Sure.
And so then last year, that was how you and I connected.
Right.
We really wanted to increase volunteerism in our area. So my YLH ambassadors, they partnered with you, and they learned how to create a profile on Volunteer Florida on the Volunteer Connect portal. And we actually sat down with, so my students were the mentors. We sat down with nonprofit and organizations throughout our area that could sign up on Volunteer Florida and post opportunities for volunteerism. And they actually went in and helped these leaders create their profiles in Volunteer Connect and post their first opportunity for volunteering. And then they went into the schools, and my students passed out flyers. And anytime there's a career fair, my students are passing out flyers that say, go to Volunteer Florida and register. And then they are connecting, they're helping connect those organizations to more youth volunteers other than just the ones that are going through my program.
So cool. I don't know if the kids say cool anymore, but I do. That's from when I was around. I think lots of people say it, but I do think that is just so cool. The word ambassador, and again, that leadership component coming out into the community and representing the organization in other areas. And, them knowing what a nonprofit even is. We talked in a previous session, and I talk in training a lot about making sure that people are ambassadors of your organization. How much do they know besides just the opportunity when it comes to how all of that fits together to help you achieve your mission as an organization? And it sounds like you have students who get the bigger picture because they know to look for it and
Right.
because they're equipped to connect those dots.
Right. And one of the things we did through that last year was, and we're doing it again this year, we've done a career fair. I think they said today, we had a meeting this morning. I think it's the 5th or the 6th year that we do a big career fair for all of the high schools in our area. And so many local businesses set up tables. And I think we had about 50 local businesses last year. And what my YLH ambassadors bring to that is that we added, it's not just a career fair, it's a career and community service fair. And so we brought organizations that you typically don't think about. Of course, they are also employers. So
Sure.
they will be, potential employers for our high school graduates as well. But what was the really neat part was we put up signs at all of the organizations that were looking for volunteers now that said, we need volunteers. And it kind of helped with that face-to-face to where some of the things that we encounter with our youth is that a youth is not necessarily going to pick up a phone and make a phone call to an organization and say, hey, what can I do?
Right.
So that's part of what we're trying to do with our getting the students on the Volunteer Connect and getting our organizations on Volunteer Connect and having the career fair, because if they're at the fair and they can walk up and they can talk to somebody face to face and they can fill out an application in person, or they can put their name on a list and give their email, they will do that before they will pick up a phone and reach out and say, hey, can I come to your organization and help?
Right. No, very good point. And that's a lot of us too. We want, it's really great when a friend or family member, we found this in our research says, hey, do you want to come and volunteer with me? And they haven't had to kind of figure it all out themselves, but a trusted person has said something, or, this having kind of a training and awareness that these things is really important. So let's see. I did want to touch base, and this is something you probably internally roll your eyes all the time when you hear this. But some individuals, they dismiss youth as being a little too challenging a population to mobilize for service, too young for certain tasks, unreliable, not worth training or supervising. Um, what do you say to those kinds of things? You can address them individually or however you would like.
So my experience, most of our youth, especially your high school level youth, can do pretty much what any adult can do. In some cases, they may need extra supervision just for safety reasons. I mean, obviously, we can't put, a child in certain situations that an adult could do. But aside from that, as far as their capability, I would just say that you've got to look at how capable and competent these students are, and they will rise to your expectations. So if you treat them just like you would treat any of your adult volunteers, and you talk to them just like you would talk to an adult volunteer, and you give them that same level of respect, they will act just like an adult volunteer. It was funny to me. We just recently had our trail race, and I had some students. I typed out these are where I need you. These are the stations I need you to take over. And if you're at this station, these are the things that you'll be doing at this station. Mm-hmm. I had some of my youth volunteers that were more on task and committed to what they were supposed to be doing than some of my adult volunteers throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And so, they will rise to what you expect of them and how you communicate with them. And they are very coachable. They're very moldable. When I kind of was reviewing some of the things that we thought we may talk about today, I do respect my students a lot. And so I threw to them, I said, I want your perspective.
Great.
And one of the things that, let me find the one that, one of the students said in relation to that, I'm trying to find the one that said something really good about why we should. I have pages and pages, and I actually put it in the handout section. But they said shaping the next generation is important in any field. People can help teens learn skills like responsibility, organization, and problem solving that will help them grow into great workers. Sometimes a teen needs to be told directly things such as, it is important to show up on time. People should not be afraid to be direct with teens so that they will learn and become better through the volunteering experience. Teens are definitely not too young, and in history, teens worked as adults, and they did so and were more capable. So that's from the words of a 16-year-old, as far as a kind of addressing, how do they feel? And one of them told me that they feel they're just as capable, if not more, than anyone else. In relation to the reliability issue, they said, we're under parental authority still, so I have no choice but to be reliable. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they're just very moldable and coachable, and they want to learn. And so they're going to be as reliable as you expect them to be. Yes. And I would say in my experience, equally as reliable as adults.
That is huge, and I really appreciate that. And again, as Dina mentioned, she kind of codified all these responses. She went above and beyond as a panelist or as an interviewee and went and asked these students this information. And, I encourage you all to pull from that when you're thinking about mobilizing youth and even sharing these types of quotes with them. Somebody your age said this, so they hear it not just from you, but from others. And Sarah, that's it. So true. Treat them as adults. Ingrid, good point. I think if they come with a recommendation from a teacher, that can be helpful. And what do? We do that with jobs as adults. We do that in a lot of arenas. So if there are kind of things you need to put into place, that's totally fine, because that accountability is there. But as Dina said, there are so many times when they're rising to that occasion, just like an adult would, or even more so. We're about to engage a high school student. We tried to get an intern from one of our universities here in Tallahassee and just didn't get any bites. But my boss has a connection to one of the schools in town. We reached out to them and they said, oh my gosh, we have a number of students who would be so eager to get this exposure. And the other thing is we can enjoy them and get so much from them, which I know you have alluded to and that we'll be able to talk about as well. This is not doing kids a favor, so to speak. It may feel that way sometimes, but there's a mutually beneficial relationship there that we don't want to take for granted. So in terms of challenges you have seen that may be a little bit more connected potentially to youth, because those challenges are everywhere. So much continuing education when it comes to human resources or volunteer engagement is dealing with a difficult volunteer. That has nothing to do with age. But if you were going to think about, maybe some nonprofits that have had struggles with youth, if there were any that you could mention and maybe how they were resolved.
Well, I know that some, just because of the nature of what they do, they require their volunteers to be 18 or older.
Sure.
And so we've run into that at sometimes. I think that one of the challenges, ironically, is that they're busy. I do my ambassador programs on Sunday evenings at 6 p.m. once a month, because all the evenings are filled with activities.
Yes.
So they're very busy. But just like we say of adults, if you want something done, who do you talk to? You talk to a busy person. Yeah. And the youth of today are those busy people. They're not just sitting around on their thumbs doing nothing. They're very busy and they're very engaged. So I think sometimes their busyness can be a challenge. Them finding time to commit weekly to things. Another challenge that can happen is sometimes because they're not driving themselves.
Yeah.
They may have to get a ride to an event, and so they're dependent upon not only their schedule, but they're dependent upon the schedule of their transportation. So that can sometimes be a challenge as well.
Makes total sense. And like you mentioned, whether it's on time or, again, there are some of those stereotypes people may have for youth or college students about being unreliable, all of those things, that directness and that clarification of expectations, just like you would have for adults, you have that for students. So that 16-year-old who said, it's good for us to hear you need to be on time. All of those things, we would do that with anyone. And so this isn't again, we're not doing them a favor. We're not kind of crossing our fingers that things will go well. And I think that confidence to really have that respectful dynamic is so important. And it sounds like that's there.
Sarah says that her biggest challenge has been getting parents to understand that they can't verify last minute verification hours. And I know that's one of the things that they're required to do. And your Volunteer Connect actually had a really great solution to that. So I don't know how many of the participants are familiar with Volunteer Connect. And I haven't thoroughly run through the entire agenda to see, are you doing a session on using Volunteer Connect during this?
We are not, but everyone get excited, everyone. I know some of you already are familiar, but you'll be getting an email just with more information about it. Sarah, I'm putting, and for anyone else, my email address in the chat right there in terms of verifying hours. And Sarah, it's a good point. Just having the time to do that can be overwhelming, and that you've got these parents pushing and rapping on the door. And we have had many conversations about that here in the office. We've talked about Bright Futures and some other things like that. And it's a really good point. It's something that can really be a struggle. But again, you are conveying expectation to those parents, to those students. If you do something last minute, there may be consequences to getting it, when you want it.
Well, I know my organizations, when my students last year were getting our nonprofits locally in the Volunteer Connect portal, one of the things that both our school board and the volunteer organizations loved was that the verification within the portal. So if I create a volunteer opportunity to come and help at my event, and the student shows up within the portal, I can verify that. And then the student has that transcript. And the transcript just shows, okay, they volunteered here, they did 3 hours, and this has been verified internally by the coordinator of the project. And that was really helpful. And that was a big selling point with us of getting our organizations to kind of embrace the Volunteer Connect opportunity to get connected with the kids, because that was really our challenge. We feel like kids are they're technology. And so being able to pop onto a website and see what's coming up and sign up on a website and then go there later and print out that transcript of what they've actually done is super helpful to everybody involved.
Well, and thank you for being such a brand ambassador for us. And, that's one thing that organizations, those of you on this, on the webinar, you could have your opportunity specifically for students through Volunteer Connect. And it could just be those opportunities so that you know that you're getting students for particular opportunities, and that those are the ones you're going to need to report attendance on. There are a number of different ways to kind of utilize the platform and with that respect. But again, that tech part, is really huge. And the organization piece that you talked about, the student who said, why isn't the food in this place in the warehouse, or all that sorting? That's a big opportunity, I think, for any kind of organization, is them thinking through certain efficiencies or effectiveness, because they're like this, and like you said, busy, and having them sit in on strategic planning for something that's appropriate. I know I've been in circumstances, and even when I was in high school, when people gave me a chance to share my opinion, not because I assumed they would use it, but because I just had a seat at the table. There were a number of things that people said, that is a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. But giving them the chance to think through that is to think through and present ideas, I think is just so significant. So I want to pause and see if anyone wants to write in the chat ways that youth have served in their organizations. So what kind of work have people under 18 done as volunteers for you all? I'd love to hear.
Javita, while they're typing, because I know you said that there's a little bit of a delay with that, I'm going to read one more of our youth. This one was really just pointed to me of volunteering brings great benefits. It allows me to make a difference in the lives of others. It helps me to improve my communication skills and acceptance of people that may be different from me. It also helps me to be grateful for the things that I have in my life. Leadership is promoted through doing volunteer hours, and I have the opportunity to lead as I take an active role in outreach projects. Working on leadership skills helps me develop traits that will benefit me in college and the workplace, and it shows me the impact that I can have by giving a little time.
There we go. Great reflections. That insight is so significant. So Sarah says we allow them to do volunteer roles other than our animal control assistants and transporter. That's great. So they can be surgery instrument techs, cleaning techs, dog walkers, cat socializers, greeters. Okay, that's a lot. And I think there were a couple of humane societies or organizations with animal welfare organizations. So take notes if you're there. Let's see, Terry helping us paint a fence and put in a garden for our clients. Marketing, creating posters and flyers. That's great. We have a Habitat warehouse store that's perfect that our teens work in. Looking for more support from sponsoring agency to involve youth volunteers. I gotcha. Yes. And Robert, fantastic. I'm glad you're enjoying this session. Let's see, cat care duties, event support. That's a big one. Marketing, photography. We have several roles for 18 years and older exclusively, of course. We do rescue readers. The younger kids get to read to our cats. That's great. They help us deliver our youth disaster education programs to elementary age students. They help teach our international humanitarian law class. They can help with many things across our lines of service and roles where there isn't an 18 plus requirement. Let's see. We've had CNA classes. Let's see. Students learn and help at our heart screenings. Church groups come in all summer. We've used them for painting, moving hurricane survivors back into their repaired homes. Groups of 50 that cleaned an entire 55 plus community this last summer. Wow. And that's just from a few of you. This is so encouraging. And I bet none of those are things that you didn't really need done, but you were just trying to humor some youth. These are things that were beneficial to you all to do. And they free you up to do other work to help you achieve your mission. So this is so great. Let's see. So Dina, in terms of implementing a youth volunteer program for example, a nonprofit, where they're trying, and obviously we're preaching to the choir here, but are trying to find opportunities, ways to expand their volunteer program to include youth. Are there any, obviously it's making sure that you respect and value those youth, but do you have any thoughts about, implementation or tasks, as people start to think about how they can utilize youth in their organizations to serve?
Um, I think we've hit on so many of them,
Sure.
but I go back to that they're very technologically savvy. So thinking about things that we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
We are not as, I would say they're better at getting out of the box. They have that fresh perspective. So I loved seeing in the chat that so many of them use our youth for marketing because they're great at that. They look at things through a fresh perspective, that set of eyes, that they're not locked into that, well, we've got to do it this way because we've always done it this way.
Right.
Because they may not know that we've always done it this way. So
Yeah.
they're very innovative and they can come up, they're great problem solvers.
Hmm.
And so, really trying to open and expand, um, letting your students help with planning.
Yeah.
Not just giving them tasks to do, but involving them in the planning. I think that involving our students in the planning of the career and community service fair, because I can ask them, what is it that you need? You are our market.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, what do you need to have from the career fair? From your end of it, what do you need to see? What kind of information do you want from the presenters?
That's great. Asking them. And it doesn't mean that you have to do what they say, but just like anything else, input from a variety of different perspectives and backgrounds can be invaluable, which is exactly what it sounds like so many people in your community have experienced. And so many of you have, when it comes to having actually mobilized youth, in terms of the work that you do. So, Dina, I was wondering if there are any other, we're going to do one or two other things, but other kind of either thoughts or ideas, any of the quotes you want to share, other kind of experiences you've had, because you have, like you said, 200 youth have gone through your program. So you've got so much experience here. Other thoughts?
Kind of the bigger picture, I think, that we think about, and they are our future. They're going to be the people that will be sitting in these leadership roles as adults in 5 years and 10 years. And so giving them the opportunity now to make those connections,
Yes.
It gives them a sense of pride in their community.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know that, there's so many different sectors of our youth that are underutilized. And I know that we're talking about my youth leadership students, but some of the coolest things I've seen are whenever we have sports teams, and those sports teams mentor youth. So you've got a high schooler that is reaching down to an elementary age student and teaching them and being a good role model. But when you involve someone from, the youth that era to go into a business or to go into an organization and make that connection, they are networking, they're building bridges from, where they are now as a high school student to where they want to be 10 years from now. It's giving them insight into what is the real world look like outside of my high school walls. What does my community look like? It gives them a big picture. And when they're involved in helping other people, it gives them that feeling of, I was a part of something bigger than myself, and I mattered.
Yes.
I made a difference to this person, and this is my community.
Yes.
And when they have that ownership of, this is my community, they're just going to be better citizens.
Yes.
And so I would love to see all students, not just those that are in leadership roles or in, some of these different organizations. I would love that we saw all students having a hand in reaching out and doing some sort of community service, because it's such an eye-opening experience for them about their community and the world around them.
Yes, well said. And I'll say to you all that the listening to the youth, as Dina mentioned, in examples and in how she treats and sees them, is so important, because they may have ideas for you. That expectation of them being responsible, not holding them to a lesser standard. Of course, you do have to adjust some things because they're younger. But that is a respect thing as well. Giving them ownership as well as accountability. And then the other thing is, if you have existing opportunities and you're not sure how to incorporate youth, break the project down into its smallest parts and see what they can do. So with the project that we wanted an intern to do, a high school student isn't going to be able to do all of it. But I thought through and talked to my boss about a couple of pieces that they would be able to help with that would really accelerate the rest of that project if we had some help with them. And there were also a couple of pieces that we were not sure if a college student might have interest in doing because of their plans for their careers and so on. They might not be as glamorous, but for a high school student, there could be some really neat exposure there that they're not used to. So even kind of the value of what the particular task would be was different for the youth than it necessarily would be for somebody who was older, but was really valuable for them. It was just kind of a different season of life. So break those projects and those tasks down so that you can see which pieces could really be appropriate for youth. And then you may end up expanding what they do as a result of watching them do those first bits. And then you just need Dina as a mentor. So you need to just connect with her. The Mason G. Smoke Foundation is online, and Youth Leadership Highlands is listed there. I think having a youth leadership program in general is a really powerful thing in any community. And like she said, they are our future and they are our present. They are currently great citizens and will continue to grow into great citizens when they have the jobs and the money and the, all of those kind of other things that we think about when we think about adults. And they aren't a cliche. They are not just kind of a great job, guys. They really are transforming and affecting our communities. And it is so important for us to value them that way. And hi, Chris, we love you. And we did Cards for Seniors as a staff and loved doing that. That's one of those many things that youth can do. And I hope that, Chris, you and Dina connect. Do you all know each other? Dina, Chris?
Yes, and actually, I am going through the Adult Leadership Highlands program this year. We connected last year, and so I was able to apply. And so I'm doing the adult version of Leadership Highlands this year, and Chris is the leader of that.
I love it. And Chris, I love the RSVP and Youth Leadership Highlands, because RSVP is a program for people 55 years and older. And the intergenerational, cross-generational kind of area is also so huge. It's just making sure people have exposure to one another, because we get so siloed in kind of our spaces. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for being here today. And I'm just going to give Dina a massive round of applause for her willingness to come on and share with you all again. Mason G. Smoke the foundation is online. The handout, which you'll see again at the top right, next to the chats and polls, is there. And we'll also have that on the Media Hub in case you don't have a second to download it right now. And then Dina, are you okay with giving your email address out? Sorry to put you on the spot. Do you mind putting it in the chat real quickly?
Yeah.
So anybody, if you want to take note of Dina's email address, or, again, want to look online, her biography is there with some information still on the site. And we also hope that you all will join us for the rest of the convenings, and that this was encouraging. Thanks, Keely and Chris, for your encouragement there. Dina, you really are extraordinary, and I am just so glad that we've had a chance to connect and will continue to do that. So I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and again, hope you continue to enjoy the rest of the convening. Thank you. Thanks, Dina. Appreciate you so